My topic is basic rational function graphs. A few definitions is rational function is any function which can be defined by a rational fraction. Vertical asymptotes are vertical lines which correspond to the zeros of the denominator of a rational function. Domain is the set x in the notation, and the range is all the output values of a function. A few domain and range examples. Example 1. If f of x equals the square root of x minus 1 plus 1, and there's the graph of that, then the domain is x is greater than or equal to 1, and y is greater than or equal to 1. That's because the x is the minus 1 right there, and then the y is the plus 1. And you're going to take the opposite of the 1, and that is going to be your domain range. Then, for the second example, it's f of x to the third power of the square root of x plus 2 minus 2. And there's nothing on the graph because when it's raised to the third power, the domain and range are all real numbers. Then you have vertical asymptote, and how you solve for that is your goal is to find x, so you set the denominator of the equation to 0, then solve for x, and that is the graph of the vertical asymptote. And here's an example problem. If f of x equals 3x minus 1 x plus 5 divided by x plus 5, then x plus 5 equals 0, and then x equals negative 5.
A rational expression is an algebraic expression where both the numerator and the denominator are polynomials. To simplify a rational expression, there is 3 steps. First, you should factor the polynomials. Next, determine if any factors are the same. And last, you cancel out any like factors. A problem that will help you with simplifying these equations. So if your equation is x squared minus 4 over x to the third minus 8, the first thing you're going to do is factor out the top to get x plus 2 times x minus 2, and on the bottom, you're also going to factor that out to get x minus 2 times x squared plus 2x plus 4. And in the second step, you're going to see that the x minus 2's can cancel each other out, so you x those out. And then in the third step, you get your final equation, which is x plus 2 over x squared plus 2x plus 4.
If we're adding these two terms together, first we take the denominator of the first term and factor it into x plus 8, x minus 8. And then our next step is to multiply this side by x minus 8, since that's what's missing. And then we do the math, so we do 3 times x minus 8, which comes out to 7 plus 3x minus 24 over x squared minus 64. And then once we do that, we combine like terms and get 3x minus 17 over x squared minus 64. For subtraction, since there's no LCD, we have to cross multiply, so we do x plus 1 times x plus 3 over 4x times x minus 1, and then minus 4x times 2 over 4x times x minus 1. Then we can do all of this out, and once we do all of this out, we get x squared plus 3x minus 3 minus 8x equals 4x times 1. And once we combine like terms, we end up with x squared minus 6x minus 3 over 4x squared minus 4x.
For our first real life example, we'll be talking about 2 different hoses, and it takes 2 hoses 12 minutes to fill a pond, and if we use one hose, the faster hose, it will take 10 minutes less than if we use a slower hose. So for our first equation, we will write f minutes, so for faster it's f. It'll take f minutes to fill one pond, and it will take f plus 10 minutes to fill one pond with the slower hose. So now if we put this into inverse, it will be 1 pond over f amount of minutes, and it will be 1 over f plus 10 minutes, pond over minutes. So now we want to make these 2 equations into one. So it will be 1 over f, the 1 over f, and then we're going to put this in. So it'll be plus the 1 over f plus 10. We know that it takes 12 minutes to fill one pond with both of the hoses. So in 1 minute, it will fill, with the both of the hoses will fill 1/12 of the pond. So now our new equation is 1/12 equals 1/f plus 1/f plus 10. We are now going to multiply both sides of the equation by f and by f plus 10. So it will look like f plus 10 and f plus 10. And this will lead us with our new equation. So after like solving it out, we will get f plus 10 plus f 1/12 f squared plus 10 f. So now we're going to make this into, we'll like change it up, and it'll be 12f plus 120 equals 12f, which equals f squared plus 10f. You move it down, and we're gonna like combine everything. So it will be 24f plus 120 plus f squared plus 10f. So now we're going to subtract minus 24f minus 120, and we're going to do the same thing over here. So after we subtract the 24f and the 120, this is the equation we're left with, and this can be factored by 6. So we'll have 0 equals f minus 20 and f minus or plus 6. Because when we multiply these two, we get 120, and when we add them, we get 14. Our next example is about a deck, and it's Riley Madison stained a large porch deck in 8 hours. Last year, Riley stained the deck by herself. The year before, Madison painted it by herself, but took twice as long as Riley did. How long did Riley and Madison take when each was painting alone? So we'll use R as the number of hours for Riley. So Riley has R hours divided by one deck. And then if we inverse that, it's one deck over R hours. For Madison, we will use M. So it is M hours over one deck. And if we inverse that, it's 1 over M. When we look back at the equation, we know that Madison took twice as long as Riley did, so her equation will actually be 1 over 2M. When they worked together, it took 8 hours. So when we put all of the equations together, it will be 1 over 8, so 8 hours for one deck equals 1 over R for Riley plus 1 over 2M for Madison. So now we will solve, and we will multiply both sides of the equation by 2M, and we will also multiply by the 1/8 to get rid of that. So it'll be 1 over 8 2m. So after multiplying both sides by that, this is the equation we're left with. So R equals 12 hours. So it takes Riley 12 hours to do to stain her deck. And we know that Madison, it takes double. So it's M equals 12 times 2, which equals 24. So it takes Riley a total of 12 hours to paint her deck, and Madison a total of 24 hours to stain her deck.